Just a little bit about the pitcher that was awarded second place. I was one of a team of 5 Getty staff who covered the athletics for the full 9 days. And each day we would rotate our position, whether it was infield or head on, floating around the stadium. And as it turned out, I was going to be infield every day that the 100, 200, 400 was going to be run. And to me, the classic finish picture is always taken head on, where you see the entire field and the athletes dip on the line to win. So knowing I was going to be infield, I set up remote cameras head on. Just for those who don't understand remote cameras, this is a pocket wizard, and if you have one transceiver you can have any number of receivers, so you're only limited by how much money you've got basically to throw at your equipment. They'll fire the other cameras up to about 1,000 feet away, and that way I had 2 cameras set up head on and another camera 45 degrees to the finish. I probably shot the last second of the race. He ran 19.34 seconds, I think, to break the world record. I probably worked for 1 second of that race. But in that time, I took nearly 200 frames with the 4 cameras. Of all the remote pitches, nearly 120 pitches, 3 of them were sharp. And that was one of them. So I think that's why they call them remote cameras. The chance of getting a picture out of it is fairly remote. The exposure in the stadium was 1250 ISO, 800 at f4, which is pretty good lighting, really, especially for the modern cameras. They handle the grain really well now. In fact, the Nikon cameras, I think a lot of guys are shooting at 3200, and they're really happy with the results from that. So when you've got that type of lighting, the buffer on the cameras comes back. In daylight, that camera you can just keep firing for about 98 frames before it stops to think about it. But in that lighting, I think it comes down to about 38 frames. So it's just something you need to stop and think about when you're shooting remote cameras. You can't just hit the button at the start of the race and hope that they're still firing at the end. That's one of the reasons why I only fired for the last second of the race. Had to make sure that the other 3 cameras were all going to be firing at the right time. After watching the 100 metres and seeing how far Usain Bolt won by when he was thumping his chest with 20 metres to go, I deliberately focused the cameras before the finish line. I thought that's when I was going to get the picture that I wanted. Tried to figure out by looking at other pictures on the night. I think there'd be somewhere between 400 and 500 accredited photographers there at that moment trying to shoot that. and of those 400 or 500, there's probably 100 of them would have had remote cameras as well. So do the math, multiply it by 20 or 30 frames. There's a lot of frames taken at that last couple of seconds of the race. So to be awarded second place out of so many pitches, it's just, I can't explain it. And to win a World Press Award, it's probably going to be the highlight of my career. I'd like to think that I may be able to get another prize in the next few years, but with those sort of odds, who knows? Yes, the remote cameras, you can fire the drive, but it's not autofocus. So each day between the morning and afternoon session, I'd spend up to 2 hours putting the remotes in and just fiddling about, trying to figure out where you thought the picture was going to be. You can sit there with your camera and you envisage what's going to happen, and then you just have to hope that it does, that it all works out. For an agency, very privileged because we get priority seating. Every set photo position, there's positions for the agencies, and a couple of days before the event starts, the agencies get together with the photo manager, and there'll be a draw amongst the agencies, and we get to pick where we want to sit for the rest of the event. So that'll be head-on. There's a head-on up high position, around the bend position, probably at the start as well. And of course infield. Each agency has 2 photographers infield as well. I was saying last night, I'm one of 10 photographers infield for hundreds and 200s at the biggest sporting event in the world, and I'd rather be somewhere else. We were talking about it earlier, why there are so many good sports photographers from Australia. I guess we're a sporting nation. We probably put more relevance into sport than the news, which is probably not the right way to be, but that may be the answer. I'm not sure. We always shoot in JPEG. The company has done a lot of research into it and found that what you're losing in quality is it's less than 5%. So they believe, and it's just so much easier to process afterwards. And yes, we at the major events, certainly at the Olympics or the World Championships, we have IT staff who cable the entire venue. Infield, there's probably 4 positions where there's a cable. I just go and plug my computer in, shoot a race, put the card in, and it goes straight to an editor. It's done. Where photojournalism is going in this country, it's hard to tell where it's going. There's a lot of very talented people around, but where's the newspaper industry going? I don't work for a newspaper, so it's hard for me to have a lot of insight into that, but it's not looking promising. I think the internet is a great medium, but no one is really using it to its full advantage as yet, certainly not newspapers. For the amount of staff they have running them, I hope there's no one here from... I don't think either of the News Limited or Fairfax websites are doing what could be done with them. We're allowed to remove dust, adjust the levels, but if I add something to the picture or take something away, there's no questions, you're sacked. It doesn't matter who you are.
But that's only adding lighting, what about adding light?
You're allowed to do a small amount of dodging and burning, but you can tell when the images are being overdone.